Well, today is the 10th anniversary of September the 11th.
Yes.
Wow. Where were you on that day? What was happening the moment you heard about the attacks on the Twin Towers? Denise, where were you? What did you hear?
I was in getting ready for choir practice, because we were doing our worship practice for our church in Moscow.
So you were in Moscow.
I was in Moscow, and someone came in and said that a plane hit the Twin Towers, and of course it was like for you, of course, it was like, what? And it was quite a shock, and and then and Billy Brim was in our home, and she had just ministered in our church, and so we watched the towers fall over and over again, just like you did on the news with Billy Brim.
Well, I was in the car headed to the airport, and I had just arrived at the airport getting ready to take a flight to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And my sister Rhonda called and she said, Rick, a plane just hit one of the Twin Towers. And I thought she was joking. I said, Rhonda, that is a bad joke. She said, wait a minute. She said, a second plane just hit the second tower. And I didn't think she was serious. I mean, really, I thought it was a joke. And lo and behold, it was not a joke. And so I reviewed that night with my team, what should we do? It looks like the United States is under attack. Should we go to this trip to Ukraine or go home and be with our family? So we canceled our trip. We went back home. When I got home, we lived right by the Kremlin back in those days, and I got home and Denise was there. Billy Brim was there and her daughter. And all evening, we watched the news. You know, that same scene you saw over and over and over and over and over. And we were just speechless. And Billy needed to go home. George and Terry Copeland had just left us, Pearsons, and they were somewhere in the air and they couldn't get home. They had just left Moscow and they were being diverted to Ireland. And it's like we were trying so hard to make sense out of where all our friends were that were on airplanes. And just like everyone, it was really a monumental moment.
You know, one thing I remember that was when I was in that rehearsal and I heard what happened. Our brothers and sisters, our Russian brothers and sisters, they started saying, I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking about their love and their care. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that event drew people closer together. I mean, it was tragic and horrible that people lost their loved ones.
Do you remember the U.S. Embassy?
Oh.
It was just covered with flowers.
Covered with flowers.
Maybe you remember when Princess Diana died in England and all the flowers. Well, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, the Muscovites just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and putting flowers all outside the U.S. Embassy to express their sorrow and their compassion. That was really a great experience.
Yeah, that was a tragic day.
But a very tragic day, and we continue to pray for people who've lost their relatives. And I think that on this day, it's good for us to remember where we were on that day and to think, how has the world changed since that time?
And to believe God for His divine and wonderful protection over you and over your family.
That's right.
And over those you love.
That's right. I think that's something we all need to
think about
today.